someone here. Oh, sorry.
E kau ki te taie, e kau ki te taie. E kaura e tāne wāhi atu rā te ngaru huka huka o marerei au. Piki te atu te urere kura o tau taurangi, tapa taparuru ana te kakau o te hoi. Nau mai e kare mai ki tā tātai pāpā hotanga, ngā whakataitai waka ama hoiroa āmotu e nei, e tūnei ki konei ki Waitangi. Nau mai e rarau.
Hakatahi te rangi ātāhua ki kona i tēnei rangi, te rangi tuarua o nā whakataitai Waka Ama o te motu. It's a beautiful day here in Waitangi, and we have 69 teams going out onto our waters today, so with a total of 45 of those are W6 and the rest are W1 and W2. So it's a day two. A lot of these paddlers have already done a race yesterday in the V1s and the OC1s, so they're coming on with new vigour, going in with their teammates and out there to do a 26k race, most of them.
Hi, nau mai e karema. Here we are at the starting line. Yesterday we were very fortunate to watch some grueling battles, particularly the one between Casey Ngātaki and Tupu King. Tupu King again in race number 2. And race number 3 was our introduction to the six-mans. Now today, it's we've flipped the coin. Ko ngā mea i te hoi i roto i ngā waka taki ono ina nahi, kua taki tahi i te rangi nei. Ngā mea i te hoi taki tahi ina nahi, kua taki ono i te rangi nei. Nā ko ngā waka e ki te mai nei koutou i tēnei rā. J16, taitama wahine, taitama tāne, e whai urungi ana ngā waka taki tahi. Mo te wāhi ki ngā wāhine, kaore he urungi. Engari e kite ana koutou i tēnei rangi nei, kua puta ngā waka taki ono, taihoa ake nei tātou kā kite i te aranga o te haki kā kāriki.
And so here they are now, just approaching up to the start line, waiting for the flag, waiting for the horn to go off so they can start their race. In this race today, we have 14 W6 Opens teams. We have 11 Masters teams for the women, 9 Senior Master women and 9 Golden Master women. And paddling alongside the W6. So we also have 2 junior teams, actually 2 J19 W6 teams. Alongside them, 3 W2. So that's the 2 mans, and that's our J16 men. We have 19 W1 rudderless women paddling and 2 ruddered junior J16 men's paddling in this division. And as you can see there on the screen, the juniors are doing the 8 to 10k race. The W6, apart from the Golden Master women, I believe, are doing the 26k race.
Go home.
listeners.
Okay, so competing in this race today, as I mentioned before, we have several Golden Master women teams. So we have Kaihoi o Ngāti Rehia in there, Maraenui Rugby and Sports Association, Tauranga Moana, two Hirota teams in the Golden Master section. Te Wakapau Namu, Here Taunga Ararau o Ngāti Kahungunu. It looks like they're going up to the start line now and waiting for that horn to go off and start race number 4.
As a kaihoi yourself there, Peata, what's going through your mind in lead up to the, or awaiting the rise of the green flag?
At this point, you're just wanting to put your waka into a good position so that you don't clash with anyone. And get yourself as close to that line as you can at the front without going off. They are not going to back off in disqualifying teams this year if they go past that red buoy. Karina made it very clear yesterday, if teams are to go past that red buoy at the beginning, there will be a 10-minute disqualification time, which is huge. Now, I know that was for the W1. I didn't hear the briefing this morning, but I understand that that's the DQ for the teams as they go out there, and trying to make up for 10 minutes while you're out there on the race is not easy, huh?
And are they notified of that disqualification at the outset, or are they notified of it at the end?
Hopefully at the beginning, if they were all there at the race briefing this morning, they will know, and so that's up to the steerers and the callers there to make sure that their teams aren't going over that front line. Your seat 1 will be looking out for the front of the waka and making sure that's not going past the red buoy. You can see the conditions there are a bit choppy. We've got a bit of wind coming from the east this morning, I believe, so trying to keep their waka straight. And before that buoy is the key part here. And remember, you've got a lot of nerves and adrenaline going on here as well. So everyone's kind of eager and you're trying to keep your team calm, ready for a good start.
What are these waters like compared to some of the international waters you've competed on?
Yeah, what I noticed yesterday in the V1 was there's a lot of stuff going on underneath that water which you can't see on top. So it looks beautiful, beautiful and calm there for us spectators. But underneath that water, there are a lot of currents, strange currents going on, which I've never paddled here before in these waters. But also what you get, I've been told, is that when there are waves here, they're quite nice rolly waves, which you typically don't get here in Aotearoa. Those are more the Pacific Island kind of waves. But most of the waters around here in Aotearoa, which most of these paddlers are training on, you've got quite rocky, bumpy water with the water going in all sorts of different directions. Here, I understand when it does get the waves do pick up, they're quite nice to roll on. But as I said, those currents underneath are creating a whole different story. So the paddlers are going to have to feel for that as they're going out and adapt accordingly. And
for yourself, what are your preferred type of conditions? Flats, wavy?
Yeah, I think our team at Taniwha, we like headwind. Ooh. We like going into the wind. I don't know why, because it's hard. But that is the wind that we seem to excel in. So I don't know. Now, there is actually a Taniwha, a senior masters team competing in this one, and I don't think we're going to get any headwind today. It's going to be very light, so it's going to be a matter of the paddlers just trying to navigate what's going on underneath the currents and trying to navigate around the other teams.
And as a competitor, not only in the long distance, but the short distance as well, what are some of the training characteristics that might make one different to the other?
Yeah, the short distance requires that fast, it's just all strength and going hard, really. These ones here, it's a lot more technical with a long distance race. You're counting on understanding the water, the currents, like I mentioned before, you're dealing with wind. So it's a whole different, and having to adapt your stroke accordingly. Obviously, in a headwind, you're going to have to go longer in the water, so that waka, the steerer, can control the waka. If it's a downwind, shorter strokes and things like that. So it's really up to the teams. This becomes a technical race in the long distance. So much different in terms of, you do have the turns race and the sprints, but aside from that, this is quite, there's a lot of thought that goes into this, a lot of mental focus and adjustments. And if the teams are constantly watching out for that, that can also become not only physically draining, but mentally draining.
Someone with a build like myself,
yes,
we'd ask, are there any 50-metre races?
50 metres.
I think we're good for 50 metres. After that, we'd be sucking in the kumara e te whānau.
I think the novices might even go a bit longer than 50 metres. Yeah, but exactly, and that's it. For the sprints, people are getting all bulked up, like yourself, Matai, using those big muscles. These ones, long endurance. So you're looking for I know one of our teams who are trying to lighten their waka a bit. It's a different kind of muscles. Yeah, these paddlers are waiting around at the start line here for quite a long time. This can make you quite anxious, actually, waiting around at the start line for a long period of time. Excuse my ignorance, but were you a competitor at the World Sprints earlier this year? No, kareo I haere, kareo I tai atu. And I think the COVID's had quite a big impact on our races, Matai. This one here, it's been really nice for all the paddlers to come together again and be here, without the number limitations and things like that. You've had quite a lot of them have been over at the World Sprints, and there was only half the paddlers that went over to the World Sprints this year in comparison to previous years. Nā te mate korona te take. But however, our teams did exceptionally well at the Worlds. But, it's been so close to the long distance nationals. A lot of them are sprint trained, and they've only had less than 2 months, I believe, to prepare for the long distance. So it can be quite taxing on the body in that sense. Some of them, not all of the ones who didn't go, might have had a bit longer to prepare for long distance.
Me te aha ko te wāhi kia tupu king, you speak of taxing. Ka oho tēnā Māori ina nahi nei ka whakaaro, okay, I'm going to do a 14k race, and I'm going to do it again. Karei te mōhio koe te pōrangi ka pērā, engari very fortunate to have tupu king. Anei, tātou e karema, kua rewa te haki kākāriki, ki tā tātou reihi tuatahi o te rā, ki te reihi tuawhā o tā tātou whakataitai ngā whakataitai Waka Ama, hoiroa āmotu e tūnei ki Waitangi. The green flag has indicated that the race has started. They're out there. This is a combination of a lot of time on the water, training, dieting, and preparing themselves, equipping themselves with the appropriate tools to win in these races. Some of the races here today are 8 to 10 Ks, others are 14 to 16 Ks. And this is a race where we see our wāhine out there showing their wares, showing that they can muscle through these long distance races. We've seen them at the nationals throughout the years. The national short sprints competitions, they unfold during January. But we are here today, kei konei oke topa ko ngā hoi ngā roa e nei, e ki te mai nei koutou ngā toa o Aotearoa.
And already you can see the differences in the types of strokes we've got going on. You've got a longer stroke, you've got a shorter stroke. Most of them are still in that first 1 to 2 Ks. They do a kind of race start, so a bit faster, but you can see the different techniques coming through from the different clubs there. No collisions so far. We're off to a good start.
Kei ngā kōrero tuku iho a te Māori ko te rerekētanga o ngā hoi he tia, he ranga, e tia, e ranga, ko te tia, ko ngā hoi ngā poto, kua ki tēnei koutou i roto i ngā 2 kiromita tuatahi, ko ngā hoi ngā roa, e ki te mai nei koutou ko ngā ranga. Nā, kua tīmata te uru hāre ki ngā ranga, ki taku mōhio i Tahiti, the name of those long strokes are hūti. Ki te iwi Māori he ranga, and they dabble in between those two, the fast pace and that slower but longer strokes, and to conserve energy. Kia mōhio mai koutou, as I said earlier, takiwa o te waru ki te 10 kiromita te roa o ene rehi moetahi, engari ahua roa ke moetahi ki atu. Kua takoto i a rātou he rautaki, they've been putting together a plan to help conserve their energy, and if need be, when it comes to that last 2 kilometres, they're probably going to need to find some kaha deep in their souls to be able to propel their waka to the finish line.
As I mentioned before, I believe it's an easterly wind coming in here. So right now these paddlers will be battling with a side wind as they head out, which means our steerers, I can't really tell how strong that wind is, but if it's giving them a bit of grief, you're going to see our steerers going in to try and keep their waka back on the straight there. And like I mentioned before, there's several divisions in this race, so it's at this stage we're going to have to wait till they get a bit further into the race to see how they're faring in the race. At the moment it's just a battle to get out on the front, get some clear water so you can get your waka on a nice run.
Kai urungi koe ne? Peata, what are some of the responsibilities of a steerer when it comes to these long distance? Just because I see some of these steerers are steer paddling and some are poking. Well, what are the difference between the two?
Yeah, so I mean, poking is good when you want to just quickly readjust your waka, but I think the key is when you're steering is to preempt where your waka is going to go. But of course that's dictated by the winds, by your paddlers, their timing, what kind of stroke they're doing. So as long as you understand what your team are doing, you can decide what you're going to do. But ideally you want to do a quick poke in the water for no more than 3 strokes and then back into paddling again. The paddle steering is ideally where you want to stay for the majority of the race, and that's just adjusting your waka ever so gently and getting it back on its course. But the jab will come in when, like I said before, you get a strong gust of wind or it veers off suddenly. That's when you see them poking their waka. But of course that causes a bit of friction, so the less friction the better. And there's Team Tanefa with Sugar Te Pā at the front, Briar Fredrickson in seat 2, Ariana Glassford in seat 3, and down here is that Hei Matau? Ruamata. That's the Rotorua team, that one, no?
I like how you're biased towards your club, you know, everyone in your club, when it comes to a Rotorua club, I think they're from Rotorua or Hamilton. E rua.
Tūrana waiwa.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you may think that 10 or 14 kilometres is quite far. There are some races internationally that are further than that, and some of your kaihoi wait in the water. So once you make it up to your kaihoi, 2 jump out and 2 hop in. But I see here it's only a handful of people, a handful of kaihoi who have their camel packs here, so it tells us that it's not that long, and they don't have to resort to finding their water bottle in a waka, but it's long enough for them to feel the burn in their lungs, feel the pain in their forearms. But by all means, ladies and gentlemen, toa ana tēnei hunga nei, kei te mohi o rātou ki a rātou rautaki, kei te mohi o rātou ko hea ngā wā, e ākiaki ai rātou i a rātou anō. And at the moment, they're probably feeling their competition out at the moment. Engari, e kare mai, kia tahuria ke tātou ki ētahi o ngā uinga tā tātou tangata Tupu King Nona i Hawaii.
Rylan, so as a coach, tell us about a few of the things that are important about building a team?
Yeah, so for me, the big thing I always try and start off with is having a team sort of culture and identity that everyone can sort of align and buy into. And that'll generally attract like-minded people. So for us at Kalahuikai, it's sort of hard work and dedication and that kind of thing. So we all love working hard. We love getting up early. We all do that. We all have our individual sort of personalities and stuff, but we all align with this sense of hard work and just being good people. So it's something to buy into, as well as just making sure that everybody has the same goal. You know, so whether it's as a coach, you assigning the goal, or you sitting down with everybody talking it out, but everybody needs an individual goal as well as a team goal that they can all attribute to.
Cool. Rylan, so as a coach, tell us about a few of the things that are important about building a team.
Yeah, so for me, the big thing I always try and start off with is having a team sort of culture and identity that everyone can sort of align and buy into. And that'll generally attract like-minded people. So for us at Kalahuikai, it's sort of hard work and dedication and that kind of thing. So we all love working hard. We love getting up early. We all do that. We all have our individual sort of personalities and stuff, but we all align with this sense of hard work and just being good people. So it's something to buy into, as well as just making sure that everybody has the same goal. You know, so whether it's as a coach, you assigning the goal, or you sitting down with everybody talking it out, but everybody needs an individual goal as well as a team goal that they can all attribute to.
Cool.
Kia ora tātou, ko te mea ruka tēnei, e whakapā atu tēnei pāpāho I runga I tēnei rangi a tāhua. Kia ora, my name's Jamil. We're at the Waka Ama National Long Distance competition, and we're just on our first waka over here. We have Pari Haka. They're working their way towards the front, slowly getting some gains. And just across from them, we've got Ngā Hui Horo, our ladies out there in the middle there. And then in the front there, we've got Akaranga Piniola and the orange, yellow waka working hard. And as you can see, the swell is a little at the moment, but the wind's picking up. It's about 11 knots at the moment. It's supposed to pick up a little bit more, northeasterly at the moment. So our ladies are hitting hard into the wind, and they're working their way into that hard wind, and hopefully they'll get some good rides on the way back. I'm sure later on the day it'll start picking up. As you can see, I think in the middle there we've got Heimatou. A few other ladies battling it out for first, second, and third, but later we'll see in time how the changes in our positions come 18. So stay tuned, and we'll keep you in this awesome action. Kia ora tātou.
Jamil, i ngā kōrero, a koe rā e mātakitaki mai ana i te waka. Heoi anō, ladies and gentlemen, we also have a few other races happening simultaneously. We have our J16 girls. These waka are va'a, V1, meaning that they are rudderless, purely because it gives them the challenge of having to navigate their waka as they paddle it. You have some other OC1s, OC2s and OC3s out there. The OC2s, those are ruddered waka, and then the OC3s, it's a three-man waka where the third kaihoi in that waka is steering. So at the moment we see our tai tamariki who are in the W6s yesterday, they're in the W1s today, and there's that notorious yellow colour from Horota, one of the few Horota colours to be honest I've seen here. More often than not it's these pink ones or the tāmaki ones. I think it's a bit closer to tāmaki to come to Waitangi as it is for some of them to come from Gisborne. Regardless, he whakataitai kei te haere. I can't tell who's winning at the moment, but put it this way, we have a lot of participants who have made their way here to Waitangi over the past couple of days to be able to go home with a gold medal around their necks.
Yes, so competing in this race, we have a lot of ngā hoi horo competitors, and those are the ones with the pink tops there, including Waitangi Piripi, paddling in Waitangi, and Te Toki Voyaging Trust. We've got a few of those. One Heimatau paddler, Abigail Liufalani, and ngā hoi horo and Mitimitinga are our representatives today. We also have a few from Mārei Kura. Oh, sorry. Oh yes, Horota paddler Mani Toloa. And what I've noticed, Mataya, in our V1 races when I was out there yesterday, a lot of people are wearing headphones. I just saw one of our kōtiro here with her Dre Beats on her head. I'm not sure if that's there to help them, assist them in their race or what, but it's starting to become a bit of a trend.
Well, back in our days, glasses were on their way in, and then when I watch some of our tamariki paddle now, they are so smooth that their glasses stay on their heads. Back in our days, it was ugly, absolutely ugly. Probably why we're not as good as, our team weren't as good as they are nowadays. But when it comes to these Waka Ama races, one thing I can remember are people like Tāroa Dubois. I think Tupu King's another perfect example of paddlers who do well in the short distance and the long distance. There are some people in Tahiti, Lewis Laughlin. He was notorious when it came to the long distance races, but you never ever saw him in the short distance ones. So there are some kaihoi out there who prefer to do the long distance, some who prefer to do the short distance. But I give it up to those who can do both, because they have to tweak their training regimes throughout the year to be able to cater to those particular races. And yesterday we saw another perfect example in Casey Ngātaki and Tupu King. Casey Ngātaki being the world champ sprints and Tupu King being the national champ sprints, and it was a battle of who is the best between the two in this long distance, and fortunately enough Tupu King took it out. But we have to understand that the training that Tupu has, not only does he train here in Aotearoa, but he also has friends in Tahiti and Hawaii, so he has that opportunity and that exposure to that type of mātauranga. So it's hoped that because of the commercialisation that Tupu has given Waka Ama, that Casey can find his feet overseas and be able to bring that mātauranga back to Aotearoa.
Yes, and it's that experience coming through also is what we saw yesterday. Tupu, as you said, has been around the world competing in all sorts of different races, in all sorts of different waters and very different training. And after the long distance nationals, all these paddlers here will start gearing up for the sprints. A different kind of training regime again, but as you can see here, they are giving their all, and it's a trick of having to conserve enough energy to make it to the end, but race. It's a fine balance.
Compared to yesterday, if you were fortunate to watch yesterday's race between Casey Ngātaki and Tupu King, they were basically paddling next to each other. Here, there's a bit of a spread today. I don't know if that has, but there's the beach by trade that Pia made mention of earlier. You know what I'm thinking? That's actually a good way of communicating with your coach. if he says, hey, bring the waka into the left, bring the waka into the right, that's just my practical way of saying that Waka Ama has reached their professional level, but by all means, I'm sure they're probably listening to some rap music, to a bit of gangster to get them through these races. I don't know if that's a safe thing or what, hell or not. It's whatever floats your boats, pun intended, whaia ko tērā.
Well, it's some gangster peddling going on here today, as we can see there out on the water, and our 6-man people too.
Caught slipping again.
Caught off guard, eh? All right, and who we've got here? So this team here at the front, that looks like the MJs to me, on their nice 5 waka. The MJs have been sprint champions, as well as I believe they won their division last year as well, and the Picton and the long distance nationals. And here they are again, out in front, battling it out.
Taniwha, they practice at Lake Pupuke, correct?
Koina.
He rereke ngā wai o te wai Māori me te waitai?
Rereke nā wai. So if you've got some of the teams here paddling just on seawater, some teams paddling just on the river, on Waikato River for instance, ourselves practicing on lake water and ocean, but it all makes a difference. Ideally, you want to get on the ocean if you're training for the long distance nationals, and here is why, because you can see all the different currents and things going on here, which these paddlers are battling, right? See how she's drawing left, her waka's been spun around, so those are the conditions that you're not going to get on the river or the lake. So yeah, it all plays into the strategy, to the race strategy.
And in typical Māori fashion, we're very inclusive of people, especially our huanga from Hawaii. We're going to cut now to Hina, who's out there in the field and has interviewed some people over the past couple of days.
Kia ora Tiwi, I'm here with Hope Moki from Turanga Waiwai. How are you doing today? I'm doing well, thank you. How many nationals competitions have you had in long distance? Long distance, I think this is my third race. And how are you feeling today? Pretty tired after doing a long distance one. Haven't really been training too much for it, coming off sprint. Did you have a bit of a quiet time over COVID, not training too much? Yes and no, because we were training for Worlds.
Yeah.
How was Worlds? Exciting, first one ever, so got to learn about it. That was awesome. How'd you find Windsor? Very hot. Very hot. There was a heat wave. And so, what else do you have in mind for today in terms of this race? What are you focusing on? My next race, the Rudderless, everyone. And tomorrow, awesome. Good luck for all your races. Kia ora Tiwi, I'm here with Hope.
you can see our paddlers here are coming around the second turn now, the second buoy. So that in itself is quite an art form to turn the waka around the buoy without crashing into anyone else and keeping your pace and making sure you stay on track here.
As a steerer again there, Peata, I see there a lot of mahi waka here, and Tutukaka, not too far from here, I think that's where those waka were originally built, and there are Puakea waka here from Hawaii. As a steerer or as a kaihoi, tell us the difference between the two. Yeah,
the Puakea are very, sensitive to steering. So it's a lighter waka to steer in terms of you don't have to do much for it to turn. The mahi, different again, great on the straights, beautiful on the straights. A bit more effort to make them turn. So, those waka, those Puakea waka are great. Different stroke required as well. Lighter, faster kind of stroke. So that's not your kind of long and hard one that you typically do with these mahi. A lighter stroke, if you can get them up and going, beautiful. Very, very nice, but again, very sensitive. So they can tend to wish-wash all over the place if in the wrong conditions. You got to get that stroke and have your steerer on with those ones. But like you said, the mahi's been around for a while now, Mataya. I think it might be time for another gen of waka to come through.
Pono, to take away some of the flaws, I guess, of the 1990, they created the mahi, and by all means there's probably things we can tweak when it comes to a new waka. But even outside of a waka, the differences in paddles and hoi out there, I think they're started off with the whole dad's paddles, manaya paddles. Now we're starting to move into some rame and carbon fibre hoi. Is there a preferred type of paddle, or what's cool at the moment when it comes to purchasing a hoi?
I think that's completely up to the individual. Some of the paddlers like it nice and light, full carbon. Other paddlers need that more heavier one with the half wooden paddles there. They're all, like you said, they're all very different. You've got wider ones, longer ones with two bends in the blades. Those all make a difference to how you paddle. And it just comes down to personal preference. Ideally, in a team situation, you want to be paddling with similar paddles, otherwise you're going to get all sorts of different entry times and things like that, and try and maintain some kind of consistency. You'll see the Tahitians are always the big sticklers for having the same paddles. I believe they even paddle with the same length paddle as well, just to get rid of the different timing problems that you can have here.
With regards to nutrition, ignorance would tell me that carbo load the night before, the morning of, is that something that comes into consideration when it comes to preparation for these races?
Yeah, I think everyone takes that into consideration. The first long distance race I ever did, our coach told us to eat KFC the night before.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm about to enrol or register into the sport.
Yeah. I don't know if it worked. We did it. We medalled. But yeah, carbo loading. You need to get those. You need the energy for the long distance. In fact, I mean, some, and again, different teams train differently. I know there's the Hawaiians who overhydrate the day before, drink up to 3 litres, so that they're not drinking the day after. Then you've got some people take little extras on the waka with them, so they're dropping Snickers bars and flat Coke, and you can get all these little fancy carbo shots and stuff now these days. So depends. What you don't want to do, though, is try it out on race day.
Similar to kapahaka, just stick to the bracket.
Stick to the bracket.
One thing Matai was not good at. Anyway, kia hoki mai tātou ki tā tātou kaupapa. We have our wahine out there. Open Women's, Master Women's and Senior Master Women's, and we have a few world champs present at this competition. We also have Tyler Nathan Wong. This is Tupuria's partner, who's a sevens player. I think she's about to get her feet wet when it comes to this hākinakina. She's about to get out there, and she's following in the wake of people like Frano Boraka, a few other rugby personnels who have made a transition into Waka Ama. And the beauty of Waka Ama, I think, and this is a very biased approach to Waka Ama is inclusive of everyone. You have kuia, you have mother, you have tamaiti, you have mokopuna, all participating in the one sport. I hardly see that in a competitive nature when it comes to touch and rugby, purely because it depends on how prime your body is. But when it comes to Waka Ama, you have Masters 70 as well. That's basically walking from the pai into a waka and getting out into the water. And I feel that not only is this a very hauora-centric decision for people to make, or option for people to have, but it's a Māori way of being healthy. You see your whakapapa reflected in this hākinakina. You are part and parcel of the continuum of the waka culture that nearly died. So we're very fortunate for the Mātahi Whakataka Brightwells, for the Hoturoa Kerrs, for the Hekenuku Mai Puhipi to have been stalwarts in reviving this hākinakina. And we're just a blink in that history. And here we are today, 2022, contributing heavily to the revival of our hākinakina, which has led to a contribution to the revival of reo and revival of culture. So as they are out there, they're not only wanting their God, but they are champions in the revival of our culture.
Multi-generational sport, ne? Koena te painga. And just bringing us back to these, to our race here in the MJ's team that we saw earlier leading up the front in the Pua Kia Canoe. You were talking about some athletes here that are competing, like Tyler, like Frano Boraka. We also have some kayaking champions paddling. They are in the MJ's team. We have Amy Fisher there and Annie Cairns. Annie Cairns up in seat 1 and Amy Fisher, I think I saw her in seat 4. You know, so you have that kind of experience coming across to Waka Ama. It's the same thing, the same technique in terms of your paddle entering the water, the pulling of the water, everything. They can apply that to Waka Ama, and as you can see, they can make that waka run.
And I think some of the other pioneers of that transition were people like Brian Wilson. He was a senior master men's, he was an Olympian, as well as Rudolph Birkin Williams. He made the finals in the K1 at the Olympics for Samoa. But when it comes to training for Waka Ama, I think there's nothing better than their water knowledge and their water time, regardless of what sort of waka you're in. Being able to interpret and being able to understand the ocean is going to be beneficial for anyone. And today we see some of our taitamatane under 16s there in OC1s. These waka, I think this is either a wainui or one of the waka manufactured in Hawaii. These have rudders, so if you can see their legs, there are pedals in front of their legs or where their feet lie. And if you put pressure on the left one, your waka goes left. If you put pressure on your right one, the waka goes right. But there are pros and cons there to having a rudder. Can you tell us a little bit about the pros and cons with a rudder and a rudderless waka?
Yeah, there sure are. So in terms of keeping the waka on track, the rudder is the easier one, and surfing the water. Our rudderless, of course, with no friction underneath, you're going to have a nicer run on the water. But when you get stuck in a side wind, like we saw earlier on in the pictures, our paddlers, they're struggling a bit to keep their line and having to paddle hard left and do that J-stroke just to keep their waka back online. So there are pros and cons. It probably just depends. Everyone has a preference. Just depends on how you want to paddle and the conditions of the day, of course. Here are our MJs. Like I mentioned before, Annie Cairns up front. I think that is Maddie Daw in seat 2. Another Puakea boat here. Again, having to just adjust that stroke ever so slightly lighter and faster. Keep that waka up. And that is Christy there in the back steering.
Yes, e karema pēr tānei some kai hoi from other clubs.
Rotorua. Go Rotorua.
It was a very biased, taniwha-centric commentary in lead up to this race.
I can only share with you what I know, Matai.
Ka pai e kite mai nei tātou te ahuatanga ki etahi o ngā waka rereke, i kōrero hia te puakea, i kōrero hia te mahi. And for those of you who don't know too much about the sport. The mahi-mahi waka was taken from the shape of a mahi-mahi fish. So I think if we want our waka to fly, we might have to get a maroro and steal the shape of a maroro waka. But
The mahi-mahi fish, long and slim, ne?
aye, and that same sort of head to the waka. We have our broadcast, as you can see, happening on YouTube. I konei Whakaata Māori, and Whakaata Māori, not only the home of Kapahaka, but the home of Waka Ama as well. There are a number of races, long distance races in the world. You have the Hawaii Nui Va'a, you have the Super Aito, and if anything, I'd like to propose a whakaaro to those who run this whakataitai, this competition, is to give an incentive to some of these champions and help sponsor some of them to make it to some of these international competitions. Because as Pene Mamaku from Ngāti Awa said, te manukai te miro, nōna te ngahere, te manukai te mātauranga, nōna te ao engari. He wā tōna, me hoki mai te manukai te mātauranga ki te whāngai ngā manukai te miro. I think it'll help with developing our whakataitai Waka Ama he and Aotearoa. Reira he whakahau tēnei, ki ngā kaiwhakahaere o tēnei whakataitai, āwhina tia tātai kai hoi kia haere ki tā wāhi ki te ako i etahi o ngā nuka me ngā pūkenga o tērā takiwa.
And just for our viewers watching out there, in case you're getting confused, we're seeing singles paddlers, then we're seeing 16 paddlers. There are several races going on here and several divisions going on. So we've got our, as Mataya mentioned earlier, we've got our J16s doing their singles, their OC1s and V1s. And then we have in the six-man division, several divisions in the six-man team. So we're flipping in and out of different races. Some are shorter course and some a longer course. That is, now this course here in Waitangi is actually beautifully set up, Matai, I think, for our spectators. So our six-man here are having to go around the same course 3 times, and at one part of that course they come along the beach where everyone there, all their supporters, can support them and yell out for them and watch the race, which is not something we often get in the long-distance nationals. Should I say it again? There goes Taniwha.
Just if you didn't know.
Kia ora tātou. As you can see, we're back here live, and we've got Tama. Ari's the puakea doing his job, and our mate doing his work on the surf. He's left his competition behind, and he's about a K ahead of his other competitors, but he's doing real well, and he's just settling in now. Just like Matthias said, hitia, heranga, heranga. He's starting to do those quick short ones, and then he'll do the long ones on our wave. And now you can see he's displaying some good surfing skills. He's been doing the work. Here he goes. just coming to the end of the
Aloha, my name is Nahoku Helea Keahu Olu Jauna Keala. I'm from Molokai, age 31, and currently paddling for Outrigger Canoe Club, and have been paddling since the age of 7.
First question, what was it like for you growing up and paddling in Molokai?
So every summer, my mom and my sisters and a lot of our friends and families during the summer we'd get together and we'd paddle on Molokai, and it would kind of be a summer thing.
Yeah.
And so I started paddling because my mom would paddle and my sister
Sure.
would paddle, and so it kind of became just like a family thing, an extended family thing. We had a lot of auntie moms, and so
Sure.
there's not a lot to do on Molokai, but during the summers, that's when every week we'd be spending a lot of time with the same people,
Yeah.
much like we do here and every season, but you know, it's more so because everybody knows each other and it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
So that was really special.
You know, you started paddling quite young in Molokai. Was that more sprint focused or long distance focused?
It was for the younger youth paddlers. We would do sprint regatta season just during the summer. And then for the adults, they would do the sprint season and then the long distance.
Yeah, I think that's pretty similar to us back home, and even myself. I started paddling pretty young, but it was only really sprint focused. We got a pretty heavy sprint focus back home. Not a lot of long distance, although over the years that's improved. When would you say you made that switch from, say, mainly focusing on states and sprints to that long distance racing?
So I started doing longer distances when I got to high school, but that was still only maxing out at about 6 miles.
Yeah.
But when I really got into long distance was after I finished high school and I was in college.
True.
And then I joined a team with the Open Women.
So, did you go to? Was that in Molokai, or
That
wasn't
was
until you got
here.
to? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. What would, for you, you know, how long have you been paddling now? For
20
something
something
years. Over your years paddling, what would be the most significant race for you here in Hawaii?
6-man race
Yep,
would be the Navahine Okekai Kaiwi Channel crossing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times have you crossed that channel?
I've only done it 3 times.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's surprising. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Kind of going off into a different kind of realm of paddling. How important is, say, upholding tradition within wa'a or paddling here in Hawaii for you?
I think when we talk about tradition, there's definitely things that we should keep for sure. Remembering our history, our stories, and the culture in which paddling comes from in Hawaii. But if we're talking more so about canoe shape and all of that, I think it's very important for us to definitely honor those areas and especially reserve them for certain times of the season, but not necessarily stay confined within a box of tradition.
Yeah, for sure.
But definitely not lose it either.
Yeah.
I think it's finding that balance of respecting tradition and respecting culture and history, but also progressing with the times and what we're provided and what we're given as an opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
Kia ora tātou. We're here with our junior 16 champion, Tama Heta. I'm sure his parents will be very proud because I see them training every day. How was that, brother? How was your race?
It was mean. It was just a little battle on the way out, and then I got to read the surf and have a little tutu on the surf on the way back in there.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we could see you picking off some waves. Did you get some nice big ones?
Yeah, and then it kind of dropped off coming into the bay. But, you know, I had to push for those long sets.
Yeah.
Long.
Nice, bro. You could see your training definitely paying off in that race. You're well ahead of your competition. Are you doing the V1 after this as well?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, well, you never know. You might have a second interview coming up, bro.
Yeah.
Mean. All right. Well, that's Tama Heta with us, whānau. Have an awesome rest
You
of your
too,
day,
yeah.
bro.
Sweet as.
Ka kite.
And we're back here into the race. As you can see, these are our wahine on the rudderless waka, So that's no hea te ingoa te uringi, he momo uringi tērā.
Te rara? Ai. Koe te kupu e whakamahi ana e urungi kore mo te raraless. Mutunga ke mai nei o te hohonu.
Hohonu is, bro. Hohonu is. Yeah, and our wahine here just struggling a wee bit with that side wind. The OC1 here, no problem, but our rudderless, they're getting a bit blown around here. I can see them paddling on one side, which means it's not nice. I mean, I was out there yesterday in better conditions than this, and it was hard. So a bit of aroha here for our paddlers, but they're almost there, coming up to their last lap of their race.
Outside of the exhaustion, what are the chances of getting cramp out there?
High, very high. In fact, one of my friends there cramped up yesterday. Well, I think there were a few of us that cramped up, and you know, it's just you don't know what's going to happen on race day, but you train so that doesn't happen. But there's a high chance, and when you're having to paddle on one side, like our girls are here on the next, koina, po te hau. Because it's really, really taxing on the body. You're on one side to try and keep your waka going forward and in the right direction at the same time. That's very taxing on those muscles, and so you have to dig deep and find something there to just keep you going.
Alright, e ki te mai ana koutou, we've spoken briefly about the steering capabilities. And when it comes to a single, especially these rudderless, when your waka overshoots its target, you're going to have to do the poking of the paddle to the side of the waka to act as a rudder. So as we said earlier, the OC1s, there's a rudder attached to those waka, but these ones that are rudderless, if you overshoot your mark, then unfortunately you're going to have to use your paddle as a rudder. Otherwise, Peata spoke of a particular stroke called a J stroke, and that's a half a steer and a half a paddle in one stroke. So you can empathise with how hard this is for some of our tamariki, and I hate to say it, but I think paku mākutu kei runga i ēnei whakataitai for our tamariki, because they always provided with the worst weather conditions, whether it be at the sprints or the long distance. Yesterday with our adults, papa pounamu ana te moana, calm as the days, but when it comes to our tamariki, it's been a bit of a struggle for them, and especially when they're out in the middle of nowhere, it's hard not to feel for them or show a bit of compassion. But we're going to cut back to the boats, to our kaikawe kōrero out there, to Jamal Ruka, hei te hoa, kei te pēhea.
Yeah, it'll be a bit harder because they've got no rudder on these ones. There it is. Yep. Kapai. We on?
Yep, when you're ready.
Kapai, kia ora tātou. We're here with our junior woman division champion. We've just got into her live, and how was that?
Oh, that was tough out there. The wind's just coming from all directions.
Nice, nice. We could see you having a little battle with your mate there.
Yep. Tingy, oh, she's a beast, man. You just gotta keep pushing, I guess.
Nice, nice. It looked like you got her on the surf back. It looked like you had a bit more experience in the surf and you were catching it.
I'd say we've had about the same experience, but I do go out on the beach a bit often, so
yeah.
I guess that helped.
Nice, that's the one. And how's your training program been going with Tupu?
Yeah, Tupu, we use Tupu's training program. He's got the best out of them all. And yeah, ever since we come back, Worlds just got into it, and I'd say that helped a lot.
Awesome. I guess Mum and Dad will definitely be proud of your result, eh?
Yeah, surely.
Nice.
Maybe she'll let me get a break after this.
Yeah, I know how hard you fellas train, so congratulations. And
Thank you.
I hope you have the best result again. Are you doing AC1?
That was yesterday, I think, but no,
okay.
I'm not doing it.
All right, Kapai. Awesome. Thank you, eh?
Yep, thank you.
And that was our winner for the J16 rudderless race. I believe that was Chelsea Resi, ne? Talking about her parents there, Jason and Chev. Aroha mai, mena kai te hea hau, e nari ki taku nei mōhio ki te siro atu ki te kōsiro rā, ko tōna momo he momoreti. And we're back to our wahine in their W6 race. They are on their last lap, e huama. Oh, we've got one more junior here struggling. As we said before, these waters are not easy. These girls are dealing with the side, all those currents going on underneath. That side wind and the rudderless, ka roha hoki kia rātou e kaha hoi nei I roto I ngā wai, not kare at all.
Quite spread out as well.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it can get quite lonely out there, especially when it's spread out like that. In Tahiti at the Aito, I think there's over 500 paddlers out there, and it's like 100 cross the line per 10 seconds, so at least you're going to have some company when you're out there. Probably the reason why they've resorted to some earphones to keep them company while they're out there. And because of the nature of this competition, they turn 3 boys X amount of times. Some of our tamariki, they leave a bit later just because they do that cycle once. Not only is it going to be quite lonely out there on your own, but having to start on your own and finish on your own as well, while all the attention is on the sixes. Yeah, it's hard not to empathise with them. But these races here, there are 3 boys you have to turn around, and how many times do they have to do that, Peata?
3, 4. There's 4 boys. So for the 6-man 24k race, it's an 8k course. So they're doing that 3 times around. And for the juniors, I believe they're doing it
8 to 10.
Yeah, 8 to 10. So it's once around the course there. In these very trying conditions. And as you were saying, it can get quite hard out there. You know, there's no landmarks that they're going past. There's nothing for them to gauge. It's just all kind of open water. So going from one buoy to the next. And it's about 4K going towards one buoy, and then just under 1,000 going to the next one, and then another 4K back. So it's very lonely out there. And I think those headphones is how everyone's managing to push through mentally. But here on our W6, of course, they're not going to be wearing headphones. They're going to be communicating with their team so that they know what to do. They've come into a downwind here. You can see they just picked up the pace of their stroke a wee bit more and taking advantage of those waves coming behind them in the downwind.
In your experience, have you come across some of the creatures of Te Moana Nui Akiwa in some of your endeavours or some of your races?
I have, in fact. I've had lots of encounters with aihe. no sharks yet, although my daughter she insists that there's lots of sharks out there when we go out on the water, but kāre anō kia kite i tētahi tētahi shark ra. Ko ki te au i etahi killer whales, me nā aihe, koina noi ho, me nā momo, etahi momo ika, e puta mai ana i te wai, atu i tēnā, ko te tani whanui, ko nā tāngata nei.
Ko te kapu o taniwha. Ka pai, have you been fortunate to participate in any international long distance races?
Yeah, as many of these paddlers, not nearly as many as a lot of these paddlers that we have out here, but there's ongoing regattas on around the world. The COVID has put a pause on all of that, of course, in the last couple of years, but a lot of these paddlers here just come back from Hawaii. The long distance ones you have in Hawaii and Tahiti, which, I believe you've paddled in there.
Aye. What about the heiva? Is that the one in Rarotonga? Waka Ama?
Waka Ama.
What's that one like?
That was my first long distance race. That one's actually really beautiful, but you need a steerer that knows what they're doing because they've got that reef around there, and you just got to manage not going too far in and not going too far out. You want to stay close, but not so that you get smashed onto the rocks there. So different waves again, different water again. I'm not sure why international paddlers will come into our waters. Actually, they're not very nice. Although we do have some international paddlers, as I understand, participating in today's races. Some from the Cook Islands and from Australia who are jumping in. I know we have one team competing that are not, what are they called? They're not competing, not competitors, but they are participating in the race to have a blat. But yeah. So it's the international ones are a lot longer. Ko tātou hia I Aotearoa nei kaha ki te hoi tere e nari anō mo te hoi tawhiti he momoa anō tērā. But as you can see, our paddlers are really embracing this race. It's been a long time for them too, Mataya, to be able to get into a race regatta together. So I think there's a lot of build-up towards this race, and they'll just be excited to get out on this water. There's our MJs leading the way.
And not to cast any shade upon our hākinakina, but is it professional yet?
Kāre anō ki aike ki tērā taumata, ki taku nei mōhio ki te eke ki nā whakataetae o te ao, nā Olympics he momo taumata me eke I te tuatahi. So I believe there has to be a certain number of participants in the race worldwide before they will accept it as an international sport. So, I mean, this Waka Ama is our fastest growing sport in the country, and it will eventually get to that point where we can be competing and getting that sponsorship that's much needed. But at the moment, it's all done out of Aroha, Matai. These people here turning up, Itsu atu ya tupu mā. You're coming here just to paddle for the love of it. They're out on the water most days of the week just because they love it.
When I see the participants of the Tahiti races, more often than not, you'll see a shell va'a here, another sponsorship there. Yeah, it saddens me to know that a lot of Māori have to fork out themselves from their own pockets to be able to compete in these competitions. And despite that, we do put up a good fight, a worthy fight when it comes to competing against people who can paddle full-time and make a living full-time from paddling compared to some of us. And outside of that, I'm not trying to sympathise too much with those of us from Aotearoa, but we can only really give 5 months to the sport because it's too cold here in Aotearoa to paddle in winter. Where some of those ones who don't have a winter, they get to paddle 12 months, a year, 365 days. So I give it up to those from Aotearoa. Definitely the grit that's been built through those winters that have toughened us to be able to compete internationally.
Yeah, and I believe a lot of our South Island paddlers actually come up to the north a lot to compete in the competitions because it's so cold down there that, like you said, in winter, their water's practically turned to ice, so they're not really able to get out on the water and train so much. There are a few South Island paddlers up here today, but it is very, very, very cold, and that's when you've got to get all the skins on and all the thermals and jabinis and stuff and get out there training. And like you said, got to take our hat off to all our paddlers because they actually most of the majority are training all year through, and it's tough. No sponsorship, but you got to rely on that aroha and our volunteers. Like here today, we have Waitangi Marae preparing food for 1,000 paddlers, 1,000 paddlers, all done out of aroha e Huama. So that's the kind of manaki and awhi that you rely on in these sports. But this is what brings us all here together again in these kinds of events, year on, year after year.
As Ngā Pōwehi said, it's Māori to volunteer.
Koena. And
The MJs again.
those MJs, eh? Those MJs. I think a few of these MJs here now, as far as I know, MJs no te mataua Māui, hoi anō, e tahi o nā kai hoi nei, I don't think that's their takiwa, out of their area code.
Come on, say it. Say it.
Where did they program the ringans? The ringans? He programmed kapahaka mataya.
As I said earlier, probably if I had the power to, I'd probably ring Lisa Carrington and ask her what she was up to today and put her in the waka, experience or not. I'm sure that motor will propel a waka faster than a jet boat.
Well, she's got her mate here, Amy Fisher, who almost took her out in the qualifications for the world. So Amy's in there in seat 4 in the MJs, and you know that's the kind of level of athletes that we have competing in here today, without sponsorship, all done on aroha. And it's awesome to see them all here participating. But yeah, that Ring-Ins program's pretty awesome, eh? I've watched it a couple of times.
Aye. All Māori television produced kaupapa e karema. Do not change to any other network. Mo te reo Māori, mo te hākina kina, home of haka, home of waka, haere mai ki whakaata Māori e.
Ka pai, and while they're on the screen now, let's talk about Taniwha Senior Master Woman. Looks like they might be taking out the medal for the Senior Master Woman division. Ariana Glassford in seat 3. We've got Lou Henderson steering. Oh, and back to the MJs again at the front.
We get it. You fellas are awesome. We get it. Amazing.
Geez, koe mai e nei wahine. Is this our junior girls? Might be. I know we've got 2 junior teams competing in the in this race today. Only 2 of them. No here. No Ngā Hoi Horo and Mitsi Missinga are our 2 junior teams competing in the W6. Geez, these girls are just full of energy. All they know how to do is paddle. They don't even look tired to me.
Yeah, pono.
Yeah, look, they took it up another gear.
Peata makes mention of Mitamitanga, Ole Pacifica, Va'aalo, and there's another club here, Ngā Hoihoro, pioneers of our sport, some of the very first clubs to be created because the waka culture died out after Te Hekenga Nui. Once we made it to Aotearoa, it was very whenua-centric culture. And we're very fortunate for the likes of the Mātahi Brightwells, Hoturoa Kerrs, Hekenuku Mai Pūhipi, who revived our hākinakina. And here we are today in these 6-man waka. I don't know if there are any more wooden waka of a Waka Ama sort. In Hawaii, they still have koa waka. But our waka nowadays are fiberglass, carbon fibre, regardless of the material. Tino take tonu ana tēnei hākinakina. And I'm actually waiting for the day where there's going to be a waka taua race. Well, it's going to be the closest thing to it is dragon boating. Yeah, you pedal on one side for the whole race. And I think I'll be good on the right side. I think my bicep on the right is bigger than my bicep on the left. I think I'll be a motor in one of those type of races, but yeah, enough of my
koera te tūmomo ki konei ne, o ki Waitangi. So it's deep in that kind of tradition of the waka taua. So it's quite special in that respect to have this race up here today because the history here in Waitangi for waka is long, very, very long. Heke nuku mai Busby, who you mentioned, no konei, yeah.
Kia ora koutou, ko hoki mātou ki te pito o ngā tirahiri o Taiamai. We're here back live with long distance national Waka Ama Amotu. So here we got the team Te Haiata, Ngāti Kahungunu, and as you can see they're leading the front. I think they are masters ladies and they're actually doing really well at the moment. They've done really well on the surf leg. They're picking it up and they're starting to get into their rhythm right now. Nice. You'll see them, they'll start to have a little bit of a drink and eat now. They might have some gel shots on them just to keep those carbs and those energy systems going for the next hopefully another hour or half an hour, but they'll keep chugging along and hopefully they'll keep moving and keep refueling to keep their team moving together. As you can see, they're starting to really work as one, and keeping in time is key. The more in time together they are, the more rhythm they can keep their flow going and stay on those waves in front of them. Anō reira, ko tēnei tō mātou nei tīma, ko te Haiata Waka Ama Club. Kia ora tātou.
And coming back to our W6 race. So as I mentioned before, we have a lot of our South Islanders coming up who don't get the chance to train as much during winter, but we have Te Waka Pounamu, two open women teams from down there, and Fire and Ice, I believe, are also from down there. So here they are up here all the way in Waitangi. Te rohe o te tai Tokerau e hoi ana I roto I tēnei tū whakataetai. Looking like they've just started there, those MJs. Beautiful to watch.
In this open women's division, we have teams from Akarana, Aratika, Club being Fire and Ice, Haiata, who Jamel just spoke to earlier, Hei Matau, Hoi Aroha from Tauranga, Parihaka from up here, Porridge from Auckland, Taitonga from Te Taitonga o Te Maui, Taranaki from the west, Te Tai o Aorere from the South Island, and TWP. Koenei etahi o ngā kapa wāhine kei konei kei tēnei rehi. Kua kitea hoki ngā taitamatane, we've also witnessed some splendid paddling by our junior 16 men's right at Waka. Those kai hoi being Heta Tāmati and Piripi Enoka, Tāmati Heta and Piripi Enoka. We also have Masters Women's, Senior Masters Women's and Golden. In the Masters, the Cook Island kai hoi. These are the Cook Islanders, they live here in Aotearoa. Haiata, Hauraki Waka Ama, Hoi Aroha again from Tauranga. Mangawhai Waka Ama, Māreikura from Gisborne, Ngā Hoi Horo from the north here. Taniwha from Tāmaki, Te Pairangi, Tūtangiora. And those are the Master Women's, the Senior Master Women's. We have Hauraki Waka Ama, Mitamitanga from Tutukaka there. Ngā Hoi Horo from the north, Porridge from Tāmaki, Rātana Pā. Ka pai, I thought, tua whenua tērā pā. Hono, whangaehu, ruamata no rotorua taniwha, tō rātou roto ko Pupuke, te wāhi e whakahara tau ai rātou te aurere, o kāreka no waho tatātu o rotorua me Waitaha. And in the Senior Master Women's, same sort of pan, Rātana Pā, ruamata, taniwha, te aurere. And in the Golden Master Women's, we have Aratika, Here Taunga, Horota, two crews from Horota, Ngāti Rehia from up here in the north, Marae Nui, TMOCC, me TWP, kei konei rātou. Anei etahi o ngā kai hoi o te krapu Waka Ama o Taniwha, kei konei I tēnei rangi nei, who, if you're going to make that trip from Tāmaki, or if you're going to make that trip from Gisborne, by all means, you've turned up with that competitive spirit. You don't want to waste your weekend, so you're going to try and make the most of your trip here to Waitangi and to be able to go home with a bit of bragging rights, with the hope that that Awhitiroa is here to get some photos, so you can tag yourself in the photos and make it a worthwhile trip.
Yeah, we've actually had a few teams pull out for this, the races today, including my team e hoa. Taniwha Wahine, Manawa Wahines are not competing today, as a couple of other teams, I believe, have pulled out at last minute. Sick paddlers, a whole lot of different reasons, unable to compete in today's race. So thankfully, we still have enough competitors in the race here to ensure that the races go along. I believe once there's less than two, then they pull the race. So onwards for the races here. And our ladies are on, if you've seen the footage, been watching the footage the last couple of minutes, you would have seen them drinking from their water pouches, rehydrating again to get them through for this last lap. They are into their final lap of an 8K race, a 24K race, but the final 8Ks of that race, and you can see them fatiguing, you can see them taking all the energy that they can get from their gel pouches, from their water, hydrating, doing what they can just to push through. These are trying conditions. As I mentioned before, these currents here are not friendly. They are not friendly, and when you get that wind starting to blow on top, it just all starts happening, and it's a bit of a battle out there. I think it's a bit calm in this, where I can see now, that's looking nice and calm, but yeah, it's very taxing on our bodies, and they're doing awesome. That looks like our senior golden master woman. I won't try and offend anyone. It might be the senior master, might be the masters.
J19s. It is said their one's attention span is 6 minutes. So 6 minutes times whatever to get 1 hour, 26 minutes. I give it up to these wahine who have stayed in the game mentally. Outside of the strain physically, they're still in the game mentally. I'd actually like to know what some of the things that you contemplate 1 hour, 26 minutes, 27 minutes into a race. Well, what do you think about Peata when it comes to this?
Well, the advice from our coach has always just been, just give yourself little short goals, you know. So you want to look at something, you can see the rock. Okay, let's just push to that next rock, or maybe push to the next team. You give yourself little goals. If you start thinking about that end buoy and coming in the end race, it's just too long. You can't deal with it. So, and this is when we rely on our callers to change it up for us, just to keep everyone focused, because like you see, you can get into quite a bit of a lull when you're just paddling for this length of time and mentally, and perhaps that's why we are seeing those paddlers there with their headphones on, because you can just kind of space out almost, you know. And so unless you've got your callers there to kind of keep you on track, keep you focused, they might be just calling, taking it up for a couple of strokes or something like that, and anything just to stay focused, because it's quite easy to start doing your own thing in that waka and falling off. And I think that will be the difference in how these teams fare in this race, is who has that mental capacity to push through. You know, it comes down to the race strategy that they've put in place for themselves. But this is when the experience starts showing.
They say in the boxing world, tough training, easy fight. Is that the same sort of mentality when it comes to this? Meaning, if this race is 24 Ks, do their trainings have to be beyond that?
Well, again, I think every team approaches it differently. You'll have some teams that'll go, well, you never do the full race, you just kind of train. So if it's a 26 race, you know, you want to be doing around 20s or something like that, save it for a race. So then you have other ones that will go above and beyond 26Ks race. They might pump out a 28 or 30. So come to race day, mama noi hoki te hoi, roto I nei wai. But yeah, again, it's all up to the different individual teams and how they, you know, but like some teams will have the KFC the night before, other teams will have something, kumara, or yeah, it's just, there's a whole lot of things that can play into it, and you really just have to work out what works best for your team. I don't think there is one blanket strategy that's going to work for everyone. These ladies here keeping up a nice pace. pushing through, and this looks like that rough patch. I can't tell what direction. Okay, so they're turning around the first buoy, I believe it is. All right, so these ladies here will be coming up to the last quarter of their race. And at this point, you just want to get to that end buoy. Yeah, and you can see there they're getting pushed quite a far away from that buoy, so I presume that's because the wind's blowing a wee bit and picked up out there.
Yes, my tyre is speechless.
That doesn't happen often.
Oh no, I'm just in admiration of our kui out there, of our taitama wāhine, taitama tāne, opens, senior masters, all of them. To be able to commit to a kaupapa, to see through a kaupapa, we're at the 1 hour 30 metre mark. 1 hour, so 30 minutes, 1 hour 30 minutes. Hika ma.
Yeah, a lot of the teams here, I was speaking to Maylene yesterday. Now, one of the strategies that they have for their team, they're a team from Rotorua, is they've got 3 very experienced paddlers in there, Maylene, Christy and Yvonne, and they've brought in their young paddlers who have just come up through the juniors and in the opens division. So that's a nice way, to start introducing our younger paddlers to these long races where you need that experience to push them through mentally, but you need that vigour from the young ones and the fitness from the young ones. So it's a really nice combo, I thought, and a good way that Teina Tuakana model and applying it to Waka Ama.
What's it like out there navigating the ocean? Like, what are you trying to look for, captivate on, in order to get from A to B as quick as possible?
Yeah, so definitely for me, traveling everywhere, Hawaii is pretty unique in its ocean. I think it's kind of the wind, what they call the trade winds, that just normal, everyday, 20 to 25, knots just make it so much energy compacted together. So the biggest thing for me, is like just finding that one bump. Okay, where am I going? I'm going that way. Okay, find that one bump. Find that one bump going that way, and there's most likely going to be another one. So just as long as you find that one going your way, there's probably going to be another one for sure. That's the biggest thing. Like, because there's so much like traffic and noise with all the different bumps, so you just got to find that one, just lock on.
What's it like out there navigating the ocean? Like, what are you trying to look for, captivate on, in order to get from A to B as quick as possible?
Yeah, so definitely for me, traveling everywhere, Hawaii is pretty unique in its ocean. I think it's kind of the wind, what they call the trade winds, that just normal, everyday, 20 to 25, knots just make it so much energy compacted together. So the biggest thing for me, is like just finding that one bump. Okay, where am I going? I'm going that way. Okay, find that one bump. Find that one bump going that way, and there's most likely going to be another one. So just as long as you find that one going your way, there's probably going to be another one for sure.
Good. Well done.
Kia ora tātou, ka hoki mai tātou ki te metara koura o tēnei tīma ngā kōhine me ki. So we're here with these young ladies, te hine Wairiki from Horauta Waka Ama Club, and we're here with Mihi. How was that, Mihi?
Oh, awesome. Challenging conditions out there, but we got a good start and kept some good lines, and the turns were really good. Worked in our favour as well. So, but really proud of our ladies. They put it together. We had it was a bit rushed to begin with, but we kind of got our act together and we just kind of did our own thing, eh?
Ka pai, how was that surf leg for you when you was coming around that second one?
Well, WANZ, we kind of had to take advantage of it, so we kind of tried to surf back in. And I think that's where we got away from a lot of the other teams. So there was a few in front of us, but not realising they were in the Master Open division. So we were pretty buoyed about that. Yeah.
That's awesome, mate. It would have gave you a bit of drive to catch those young ladies in front of you, so you fellas look good. Yeah, thank you. But we're made up of several different clubs around the motu. So we've got one lady from Motueka, a couple from Heretaunga, and the rest from Tairāwhiti. And so we've only had the opportunity to come together once. Oh boy. So we've just come off the back of the Worlds. Second training, eh?
Come off the back of the Worlds in the UK. And so the turnaround period has been quite short. So we haven't had the opportunity to get together as much as we'd like, but we've just relied on each other's, just the skill set we have. And just put it out there and just guts it out, really. Kia ora. Kia ora. Any shout outs to the whānau? All our whānau, all our families that are home that have supported us. That are holding the fort back home, and all our partners, our kids, they're our biggest support. But our club as well, we've got an awesome club that tautoko us, regardless of what. So, we're going to go back and celebrate now. Thank you. Ka pai, kia ora mihi. Mihi tēnei, mi kawane anu kia koutou katoa nō rei. Kia ora tātou katoa. Kia ora. Thank you.
And that was our first Golden Master Women team back there taking out first place from Horauta. They actually have two teams, the Golden Master Women team, so that was their first team that came through. 9 teams in total competing in that division. So they've done really, really well, all the way from Te Aitana Mahaki.
Aye, and for those of you who are foreign to our hākinakina, those kai hoi that are junior 16s, obviously they younger than 16, under 19s, under 23s, but when it comes to the open, 16 upwards. And if you're 60, you can still participate in the opens, but it's probably better to stay within your allocated age paradigms. Masters 40, senior masters 50, golden masters 60, and you have the masters 70. So as we said earlier, ko te pāharake ke katoa ka whai wāhi mai ki tēnei hākinakina, nā e ki te ake ana tātai e etahi atu anō, I'm guessing it's from that same age group, senior masters?
Te ahua nei, ai, no, golden
Masters.
women. Golden master women, all coming in now.
So they obviously don't have to do as many cycles of that gnarly
No, they don't.
course,
No,
yeah.
the only 2 laps for them, which was the same as the OC1s and V1s yesterday for our adults. These other teams, however, Masters, Senior Masters and Open, all having to do another 8K course to complete their 24K in total. And you can see these ones here coming along. This is the last lap for them. So once they hit that buoy over there, it's one more lap and then they're done. Here's our Golden Master woman now paddling back in. Pau katoa te hau. I'm sure they're all going to go and celebrate now with a bit of a beersies. Bit of a beersies celebration.
That's a nice way of saying green tea.
He momo tea. He momo tea.
Nei anō etahi kai hoi. Ko mutu i a rātou e tērā te tuarua o ngā hurihanga. Engari ko ngā mea opens, tamariki iho i te whātekau, hei te hoi tonu, ko mate ki te puta anō. Me te aha kei konei tātou e karema e tino waimari ana i a Ngāti Rehia, i a Ngāti Kawai manaki nei tā tātou kaupapa, kei konei kei te marae o te tī, mātau i tēnei wānei, nā ko ngā ringawera e taka ana i ngā kai mā ngā kai hoi, neki atu i te kotahi mano, no reira e mihi ake ana ki a rātou, i whai wāhi ai hoki mātou a whakaata Māori ki te whakatū i tō mātou punua taiwhanga. I konei, e tino waimari ana tēnā koutou, e mihi ake ana anō ki ngā ringaringa ki ngā waiwai o te hākinakina Waka Ama, nā tatu atu ki te tumuaki ki a Lara Collins, e mātakitaki mai ana, e ki mai ana hoki, e tino pai tēnei pāpāhotanga, no rere tohu pai tērā. Tēnā koe ka hautu i tā mātou kai o te pō i tēnei pō he ono. Kia hoki noa mai ki tā tātou kaupapa, ki te ana koutou maru ana te whirawhitu pōrora i ngā waka, kei konei te tini me te mano e harai te mea no te tai Tokerau anake, engari kei konei ngā kai hoi no Tāmaki, we have paddlers from Auckland, paddlers from Gisborne, paddlers from Rotorua, paddlers from the South Island as well. So there's a great spread of kai hoi who are participating today. Most of them not here to participate solely, but as competitive kai hoi. And they're wanting to take home some medals and to have some bragging rights, I guess, for the year, especially in lead up to the Nationals. But as I said earlier, we have some world champs here. I tū ngā whakataitai ao I rānana, I roto i ngā marama tatanei.
Te ahua nei ko ahua raru tēnei waka. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I can see our seat 4 leaning over to the left, so there could be a problem with the kiato, with the rigging, perhaps, I'm not sure. And, you know, don't be deceived by these conditions. Ahakoa, kāre te kite nā naru nui, he rarua nōpea kai te haere I te mea ko nā momo, the tides and stuff can do a lot of things, and if your waka's not rigged properly or something goes wrong, it can affect your race big time. So not sure what was going on there. But one of the paddlers having to stop paddling, that indicates to me that they're in a bit of trouble there. So I hope they can rectify that before they finish. Otherwise, it's going to be a long, hard way to finish the race.
There are also spare paddles attached to the kiato, or on a single you might see it behind them. The last thing you want to do in the middle of nowhere is snap your paddle, and you're going to have to doggy paddle back to shore. So mate hoi tahi, ora hoi rua, that whakaro applies here. And when it comes to Waka Ama, it's best to double check all your equipment before you go out into the moana, especially your camel pack as well. The last thing you want is for waitai to get into their camel pack. E mate ana koe ki te ngongo i te waitai, hei reira mate ai koe i te hia inu. No reira, he nui ngā mea me whakaro e tēnā kai hoi, a inu nei, a hoi nei, a pā ua nei. Another thing, ko te moinga o ngā waiwai, numbing of the legs, so there are techniques to keep the blood flowing. When it comes to this hākinakina, nothing different to sitting in an airplane for 2 hours, and you have your compression socks. You have some of these kai hoi when they move from one side to the other in the waka. When it comes to the paddle, if they're paddling on the right side, then their legs switch just to keep their blood flowing, to keep their body awake for we are reaching the 1 hour 50-minute mark.
Tika tāu, and in fact we saw yesterday in the women's V1 race where one of our paddlers lost her paddle quite early in the start, went flying behind her, and right then she had to grab and undo her spare paddle and get her waka up and going again, but actually ended up causing a bit of carnage. So these things can happen in the race. Paddlers do lose their paddles do break, all sorts of things, so your team has to be prepared for all the different conditions going on then. I can see just before another Golden Masters women team coming in, finishing their race. Meanwhile, the other divisions are carrying on, trying to push through their last round of the 24K course. Coming up to a turn now, are they going to... seen a couple of teams take that quite wide, so maybe they're not... maybe that wind's blowing harder than we can tell from here, Matai. I'm not sure. Akine pea kua just pau te hau.
What I love about this hākinakina is the professionalism. When I was growing up in Rotorua, when we were getting thrashed, we'd say last try wins. So you can't have that mentality here. You can't say, okay, let's all stop and just have a sprint to the end. But you see the dedication and the commitment of these kai hoi when it comes to this 1 hour 50-minute mark. We're nearly at the 2 hour mark. E te whānau, to be out there battling against the not only the ocean but the exhaustion, the fatigue, the mental games. From about 5 minutes onwards, you are in your head. You are in your head contemplating life, talking to yourself, thinking to yourself, I hope there's a McDonald's in Paihia. All of those...
Kareko he maki
there's not even an Uber Eats here.
Kareko he KFC.
So
the fish and chips noi hopea.
Oh, ki tō puku i te Māoritanga, i te aroha me te manaakitanga.
And we just saw there our seat 4 having to bail, and which indicates to me quite a lot of water is getting into their waka there. Some of the teams have skirts, some don't. But I saw a team, that was our seat 4 there, bailing out a bit. The other things that we have to consider when you're out there, you don't want too much water in there. I mean, it is a bit of a sacrifice when one of your paddlers has to stop paddling, but pai ake tērā ki te kiki tō waka i te wai. So the trick there's actually a trick to bailing too, isn't there? You don't want the slow numbers going on. It's got to be quite a fast flick of the wrist and get that way out as fast as you can. And
if anything, the wit in me would say, get the koretake paddler to do it. So your strong paddler doesn't stop the momentum of your waka. But I don't know, someone who'd say, okay, I'd happily say I'm the ngoikore paddler. So I think it comes down to someone who's selfless when it comes to the bigger picture, and someone who just probably the area in the waka that harbours the most water, probably get that person to bail the water. And as you said earlier, it leads to a lighter waka, which is a faster waka, and you don't have to haul unnecessary weight.
Oh, and there's another strategy too, is that, like you said, it might be just where all that water's falling to, which is typically around the centre of the canoe where you have your powerhouses, and so often you want to get one of them. Sometimes there's 2 different paddlers, seat 4, 5 typically, bailing the water because that's where most of the water will go to. But looks like Jamil's talking to us, but I don't know if we can hear him.
Championships As you can see, we got the club from Te Haiata, Ngāti Kahungunu. At the moment, they've definitely pulled away from their other competition, and now they're on their home stretch, trying to work that surf, and they're just breaking it down, working together, when to go in at the right time. They're looking at the surf now, the steerer's trying to line it up. It looks like that's Range that's steering them at the moment, trying to get them the right line, and then their caller's going to try and time it perfectly so they can get on that surf right at the perfect time. As you can see here, they're just starting to line it up, and they're going to start pushing. Now all those stores are completed, they'll be trying to empty the tank out and try and get to the end of their race. They're looking pretty comfortable, they're settled well. They might want to start pushing after the next 10-15 minutes to finish it hard and bring it home. We have Anna in the front there, I think in number 1. She's looking good, stroking her team really well. And our team's just cruising through. As you can see, they've paddled for a long time together, their timing's perfect, and they're hitting that surf right on the money.
Yes, so coming off the back of Jamil there, so I believe that is Range Rapana there steering them. As I mentioned before, Amy Fisher up the front, Maddie in seat 2, Amy in seat 4, and then we have Bailey and Sammy. Looking beautiful, all in sync, even on the last lap. It's looking very... Now, Amy, I understand, has just come back from a kayaking competition, so coming straight back from that, and then into Waka Ama, into a 26k long race. That's the making of a champion right there, and this team coming up not far behind them. Our Golden Master woman still pulling in there. Coming round the corner of the last buoy, Team Taniwha, Sugar Te Pai at the front. Go ladies, kia kaha. Lou Henderson still trying to get them round, I see. So it is quite gusty by the looks of it out there. Just on that last buoy and that last leg coming in, but they're going to be coming in with a bit of assistance now. You can see a bit of waves that they can catch there. Slight back, bit of a backwind and a bit on side, but they should be able to get a bit of assistance anyway on this last lap. They'll be looking forward to seeing those red buoys at the end. Our MJ still staying nice and strong, keeping it all at the front.
Well, Paul Wehi once said, it's not how you turn up to the party, it's how you leave the party. Look at the composure. Look at the composure. You wouldn't even be able to tell they've been paddling for nearly 2 hours.
No, you wouldn't. And that's, this is what it means when you train for these kinds of events, Mataya. It's all about the training that shows on race day, what's going to happen, how it's all going to unfold. But again, that mentality to push them through to the end. Geez, they're looking strong, aren't they? These girls are actually, they won the sprint competition in their division a couple of years back too. So they are not only very good in the long distance, but also in the shorter sprint distance, which is not a common combination.
All right. I'm also looking forward to watching the Open Men's. Those of you who have tuned into our broadcast, this race was dedicated heavily to our wahine in the sixes. We saw some Taitama Tātne in the OC1s in this particular race who had finished quite some time ago. But stay tuned as we will have our Tātne in the race 5 of our broadcast. There are 6 races of this broadcast. 3 were yesterday. We're into race 4 of the broadcast, race 1 of the day. Our tāne are next, and these wahine have set a great platform, and by all means, they're not to disrespect our tāne. I'm sure these MJs could do quite well in the open men's race as well. They're purely based on their performance here, not only from the outset of the race, but through to the end of the race, the composure, the class. And as Peata has said, it's a combination of great preparation, training, nutrition, time together to be able to gel. As you can see, they all look the same in their waka, but these are all part and parcel of, these are the 1%ers of what makes a great team.
It is, and I can't, I'm afraid I can't quite make out who this other team is here. It might be the Hei Matau ladies. I can't quite tell. I wish I knew who that team is there in the white waka, but they're not far behind our ladies at the front, our MJs here who are leading the entire race. And again, there are several divisions in this race: senior master, woman master, and open. So we do know for sure that the Hei Matau ladies, the MJ ladies are in the opens division, so they'll be taking out that spot. Behind them, I can't confirm if that's an opens or a masters team. Senior masters women there, Taniwha, look like they're leading the way in their division and doing very well. And like you said, Matai, the gaps here between the different teams is quite significant today. In comparison to yesterday, where we had them coming up as groups. And I think we're going to try and go back to Jamil now, who is out on the waka, and see who he's with and what he can see from the race.
Kia ora koutou, nau mai hoki mai. Ko tata nia ki te mutunga o tēnei reihi. So we're here close to the finish of our race. At the moment we've got our second place, but I think it might be first place because they're a Masters crew. So they're second overall, but first in the Masters division. So at the moment it's still Te Haiata from Ngāti Kahungunu, Waka Ama Club, and they're doing really, really well. They're pulled away from the rest of the teams as well. They look like they're trying to chase their other team that's just in front of them. But at the moment, they're getting close to the end and starting to finish hard, getting out those last little hard pushes right to the end, and just to finish off this race strong. As we can see, we've got Nikki in there. She was in the singles from yesterday. She's doing well with her team today as well. As you can see, they breed the paddlers tough in Kahungunu, and you can see it in their team as well.
Mai hoki mai e karema, Haiata Club. This is their masters, as Jamil said earlier, and what a complete domination of two divisions there. We have the MJs and we have these wahine here. Is it the same case with Taniwha? Do the masters, senior masters, opens, do they all train together?
All train, so Taniwha's a squad training club, so that we all actually mix up with our tānema as well. And it's probably only in the last few weeks that leading up to the races that we start training in our teams. But I just want to get my facts right here, so I might have been getting this all wrong. I wasn't aware. I think MJs have both an Opens and a Masters team in here. This is in fact the Masters team there. Tui, I can see Tui there in seat 5, so I might have been naming a few wrong people. Aroha mai e hoa ma, just struggling here a bit to recognise some of the faces. But yes, so this is the Masters team who are leading the way there, and the other team are our Opens teams.
How often would you see kaihoi leave their original clubs and join another club for whatever purpose it may be. But is it a common occurrence?
Look, I think when there are clubs that can't fill their divisions just due to numbers and things like that, they will go and jump in another team for a race, or if they just don't have the numbers in their own club to be able to fill a particular division, then they, another fee's involved, of course, when you go and jump in another team. But I think, the purpose of these competitions are to try and increase club success, which is what we see at the Worlds, right? Those are club competitions. So you're wanting to try and build and develop within your own club rather than going around to other clubs. But like I said, there's all sorts of different reasons to go and jump in another team. Often that involves going to a completely different rohe outside your own, and that's when teams become rely on the paddlers to do their own training in their own time, come together every now and then to have a blend session, and then go from there. Here is a good example. For instance, I know a couple of these girls are from outside of the Hastings area, a few of the Auckland, but again, just relying on them to do their own training with themselves and then come together as a team. Some of these teams, I know, I'm not sure in the women's division, but I know in the next division, haven't actually even trained together as a team. They're coming today together for the first time.
Well, they've
to
had
do
2
their
hours
race.
to practice on gelling together, on merging together. Anei rātou, they've reached the 2 hour, 5 minute mark. We've been focusing highly on MJs for the past 2 hours, but here we are. E kare mai ke konei, kei Waitangi, ko te marae, ko te tī, koe nei te wāhi, te tau ko tahi mano warurau whātekau, te tua ono o Pepuere i haina tia i te tiriti o Waitangi, 5 tau i mua atu ko te hainatanga o te whakaputanga. Nō reira, e hara i te mea he marae noi ho tēnei, engari koe nei te wāhi, i whai whakapapa i te tuakiri o New Tireni. E tata ana ki tēnei takiwā ko te Waitangi Grounds, ko reira anō ētahi hitori o te ao Māori o te New Tireni tanga, ko tāmoko hia ki tēnei whenua. Nō reira e mihi ake ana ki a Ngāti Rāhiri, ki a Ngāti Kawa, mō rāta e manaki mai nei ngā kai hoi huhua o te motu. Ni konei ngā whakataetai waka ama hoeroa āmotu. Me te aha e mihi ake ana anō a whakaata Māori ki a koutou. E manaki mai nei i a mātai ngā ringaringa i ngā waiwai, i ngā kai kāmera, i ngā ringa tohu, i ngā kaimahi anō hoki o whakaata Māori. Kia kite ai tēnei hākinakina e tēnā marae kāinga, e tēnā marae kāinga puta noa i te motu.
Tātou i te hoiroa, te kaupapa Waka Ama. Tēnā koe hoa. Hoi anō, tēnā kōrero mai ngā hitori o te wāhi nei, me ngā ahuatanga o tēnei wāhi. Tuatahi tēnei whenua ko karangahia ko te tī. Ko te tī pūwātea he tupuna rongonui, anō kira he tatau paunamu wainganui tīwi kāinga me tētahi o mātai whanaunga ki ngā mautere i wahora. Te tī koriro ki taku tupuna te kēmara, koe te mana nui o tēnei whenua. I tērā riro ngā te tī kiaia, ka moi rāua, ka puta mai ko ngā uri o te tai, tētahi whānau tūturu o te kāingane. Engari, te hiranga matu o te wahi e noho tūnei tātou, ke muri a tāua ko tērā ko kāmaka. Tērā kāmaka i haria mai e ngā mana nui a Hawaii, te tautahi mano i warauwaru te kauma 5. I runga i tērā rironga o tēnā kāmaka, ko tapaina e tāhimi henare ki o mātou whanaunga o Hawaii, ko rātou te iwi ono te tai Tokerau, nā ko riro ki a rātou ko te ingoa Ngāti Rua Wāhia, ko Rua Wāhia, te whakamāoritanga o ngā whetū a hoku lea. E nā herenga wainganui a Ngāpui e kia Hawaii, i konei tonu e pupuri tonu i roto i te kura rongonui i Hawaii, ara ko Kamehameha, tērā whare wānanga nui i timata mai konei i roto o Waitangi. Tāhua rawa e rā kōrero e hoa. Nō reira ka kōrero anō tāua mo tēnei whakataetai nui whakaharahara e hare ake nei a pōpō. Nā koe o kai hoe, koe hoki
Landing.
E tautoko ana koe i āwai. Tautoko ana au i ngā kaihoi katoa, mai rekohu taitonu ki te rerenga wairo. E ai penei Pēnei, kia rongo whānui te au, I te hiranga nui o tēnei kaupapa, te hoi. Waka ki runga I o tātou wai kaukau ki runga I o tātou moana, o tātou awarāne. Me te tohe nui a tātou o te kāinga, o te ao Māori o tira o tātou whanaunga take, kia tohe ki ngā taumā heke o te ao, kia riro ko tēnei kaupapa Waka Ama, he kēmu matua, ki roto I ngā whakataitai o te ao. Si karawa e rā kōrero e hoa. Nā, ko te pātai nui, ka kite te marea I a koe runga I rā waka hei tōna wā. A tōna wā, engari a pōpono. Ka pai tēnā koe hoa hoi anō, hei kupu whakamutu ngā au ki te marea ki o hoa rānei. Nau katoa mai, ki runga ki ngā wai kaukau, ngā wai tote, a kau te awha, whakataukia te kōrero, haruru ana te moana o pēwhairangi, ko kau te awha, ko ngā tirahiri, ko te iwi Māori nui tonu, tēnā tātou. Tēnā koe māpau.
Ai, ko hine moana tēnei, ko te nāia nei tēnei o te kāmaka, o te whatu mauri I kōrero hiara, e tō tātou tangata no konei, no Ngāti Kawa, no Ngāti Rāhiri. Ko hine moana tērā, koe nei tētahi o ngā waka I whakarauora tia mai, I muri mai I te tāraitanga o te aurere o ngā hiraka, ko ngā hiraka tēnei kei te moana e tere nei tēnei wā. Nō reira, ko te Waka Ama he peka. No te whakarauoratanga mai o tērā ahurea, me tō tātou waimeri ko tētahi o ngā kaikawe kōrero o tēnei pāpāhotanga he Hawaii ana, no reira kua tāne kaha anō tērā whakapapa ki a rātou. Anei anō tātou kua hoki mai anō ki ngā MJs, e hoki mai nei ki taku mōhio kua tō hipa pēr I a rātou te huringa tuatoru, kua timata te hoki mai ki uta, kua hipa te rua haora te kaumeneti e kare mai.
Yeah, and just earlier before there we heard from Isaiah Apiata, who's a local here. Now, he said to me, I actually spoke to him earlier this week, Mataya, and his advice to me as a kaihoi, when I asked him for some advice, I said, brother, I'm going to be paddling on those waters, give me some advice. You know what he said to me? He said, do a karakia to our kaitiaki kia maikuku. Well, I did that. And I can't say it worked. So,
because you're here.
Kei konei here, ho? So, at least I said the wrong karakia. But hoi anō, I was hoping for some tips on the bays and the waters that might assist me in my competition. But here we go. The MJs, as far as I can see, coming over the line, finishing their race. 2 hours and 11 minutes. Beautiful time. Beautiful work from the ladies. Solid, and they're a good few hundred metres in front of the next team behind them too, so they'll be very, very happy with that result. Now this is the Opens team from the MJs, and it was the Masters team that we saw earlier on. Tani Fahia, our senior Master Women division, I think coming up not far behind them. Oh, with the GoPro on the back, yep, that's Sugar. She'll be analysing that camera afterwards, seeing who missed a paddle, who missed a stroke. But our MJs finished their race in a really good time. So what's that kind of average if we're doing a 26k race in 2 hours, 11 minutes? Matai, you mathematician?
Yeah, sore brains.
13k an hour, average of 13k an hour in those conditions. That is pretty impressive, if you ask me. Good job. They'll be pulling up to the boat here now to have a talk to Jamil. With what energy they do have left anyway. I think we'll cross over to him now.
Ka pai. See you, Annie? Annie? Annie. Right.
Oh, yeah. Good work, yeah.
You want to come over here, bro, or do you want me to...
Oh,
yeah, that's all good.
Tell me when, bro.
When you're ready, bro. We're on now.
Kia ora tātou, nau mai hoki mai tēnei, ki tēnei pāpāho, kei konei mātou, ki te tira o te kākahi, the Waka Ama, te haiata, Waka Ama Club. How was that, Annie?
Oh, that was hard. It was hard pushing into the wind, but we've got good, strong girls, so yeah, we just worked into the wind and then just pushed for every bump we could on every downwind.
And it just kept working for us. We've got good engines. So
I could see you having a good battle with your other team there.
Yeah, and a mean steerer just putting us on all the right bumps and all the right places. So.
Yeah, and how's the body feeling after your singles yesterday?
Oh yeah, it's feeling.
Feeling it now?
Oh, ready for a good feed and a bit of a break. But this is an awesome crew. It's our first time paddling together.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, we're stoked as. And then our master woman just come in behind us. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Awesome day. Great
and,
conditions.
Have a good rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your championship gold medal.
Show MJs!
He mihi tēnei kia koutou katoa. Me mahi koutou mā tēnā koutou.
Thanks,
And as you heard it there, the MJ's Opens team coming together for the first time. Like I mentioned, a lot of these teams are relying on all the paddlers to do their own training and then come together. These girls coming together, a lot of them have paddled together in previous races, but to come here together for the first time today and then take out the races is super impressive. Not far behind them, their Masters team. And doing a very impressive job. And that really comes down to relying on each seat knowing what they're doing there. Seat 1, knowing how to set up the team. Seat 2, supporting that seat 1. You've got your seat 3 making the right calls and seat 4 supporting them. Your seat 5 supporting the steerer and the steerer getting them on those bumps and knowing which way to take that waka. Here's another team who... they look like they're coming up to the end of they're on their last leg as well, pushing through. Bit more energy. Look for you get the second wind when you can see those boys at the end there. They just get another gust of wind and then you're off just to make it to the end. And I believe we've got our next ones from the next division coming through. It'll probably be our Masters with Jamil now on the waka. Aye.
Oh, nice to be here.
You tell me when, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Yep. Ka pai, kia ora tātou, nau mai hoki mai. As you can see, we're with the club again. Te Ropu, Te Haiata, or Waka Ama Club. We're here with Tui. And how was that, Tui?
It was a bit of a slog, really. You had some nice headwind. But at least we got to have a little play on the downwind there, so that was really nice to have a little bit of a fun downwind to play with.
Yeah.
But then you just had to turn around and slog it back up again, so no, it was good.
And we could see you fellas are having a good battle with your Opens team. How was that?
I know, the young guns, eh?
Yeah.
We were thinking, oh no, we got them, we'll just sit on them, and then they kind of got a little bit further away, then a little bit on the next turn, and then the next turn, so no, well done to the Opens. Awesome.
Ka pai. And how's the body feeling after that?
Honestly, great. No, but my way, to be fair. I think full credit to the people who have organised it. Massive to put something like this on, and I understand it's the biggest one we've had yet. So well done to the organising committee to put that on. And we love coming up here to this beautiful spot and seeing all the wonderful scenery. Although I was just watching my mate up the front and trying to keep in time, so that's about all I saw, I think.
Ka pai. Oh, well, you fellas look awesome out there. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Ngā mihi mō koutou nei mahi. Tino taumaha. O reira, kia ora koutou katoa.
Tino taumaha.
Work, ladies. Thank you.
And so there we have Tui McCall commenting on behalf of the Masters team. Tui herself a champion of her rohe, a V1 champion of her rohe, a sprints paddler. Also long distance, and so there we have the Opens and the Masters. First canoes coming through for the 24k race. Another waka here. I'm not sure if this is our juniors or not. This is a boat I've been trying to work out who our kaihoe ai roto i tēnei rihi. But we do have two J19s also competing in here, pushing through to the end, pushing through. Is another team. There you can see the fatigue. And this is when you really need to reach down deep. You need to find somewhere in you just to get you up to that last buoy. And it's hard and everything's breaking and you can feel everything. Actually, and like Annie was saying earlier, you will feel it. And a lot of these paddlers have done a race yesterday. And then coming out to here today to do another race, their bodies are going to be feeling it today. So big ups to them. This team's looking nice and strong. Still got quite a quick stroke going on there.
Oh, amazing.
I do believe we're just waiting for, so that's Opens and Masters, a senior master team to come through. E hoa ma. Then you can see the steerer leading out to the left there, so they are getting a bit of a wind. They are getting hit by the wind on this last leg, which is going to be really, really taxing on them physically. Not really what you want to finish off your race, but they've come this far. I don't think they're going to give up now. And that team's all matchy-matchy. They all got the same hats and looking sharp on the water. Hey, if anything, if you can't pedal, then look sharp. Clever though, got their skirts on, so that'll help them not have to carry, not have to stop and bail. And that is our senior master woman coming through now. Taniwha, Team Taniwha, coming up to the end line, taking out the senior master women's division. And they're still pedaling. Can put your hoi down now, wahine ma. Oh, and there they're leaning over. There we go. And that's what happens when you give it all.
2 hours, 20 minutes.
2 hours and 20.
MJ's 2 hours, 10.
Yep.
So 10 minutes behind, but 2 divisions above. That's a feat and a half. E whai ma.
And there's not actually a big gap between them and these other teams coming in. So they've managed to stay quite close behind our first waka. This does get a bit gnarly around this area as they're coming into more shallow waters. I think their tide is actually going out too, so they might be pushing against the tide as well, dealing with the winds and the currents. Oh, and I've just been told our senior woman went straight past the boat. They don't want to be interviewed, so we won't interview them. I can tell you right now, Sugar Tapa will be very happy with their team coming in that in the first place in the senior masters women division. We won't be hearing from them, but I believe. That wraps up our coverage here, Horma. So 10-minute difference between our Opens and our senior masters and the masters. Do you recall the time there, Matthias? It's about 2:15.
Aye.
Just under 2:15 for our masters teams. These are really, really good times considering the conditions. Hard, flat, currents going on. It's all happening. Hoi anō e hoa mā. Kua tai tātou ki te mutunga o tēnei pāpāhotanga ki Waitangi me tēnei rehi, te rehi tuawhā o nā whakataitai Waka Ama o te motu i roto i nā haora tatanei ka hoki mai mātou mō te rehi tuarima ara ko nā rehi mix ki taku nei mōhio. Nō reira, kia hoki mai tātou i taua wā.